Thanks for coming today. We're going to be talking about missionary service options within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, particularly for individuals with autism. So just to give you a little introduction to me, my name is Steed. This is my cute family right here. I was a special educator in Alpine School District for 4 years. And then I was a professor of special education at BYU for 15 years. And I'm currently the disability specialist manager for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm also a mother. I've got those 3 cute kids, and my son David is 9 years old, and he has high-functioning autism. So I'm coming at this from a professional perspective, but I'm also coming at it from a very personal level. I can tell you that when we got the official diagnosis, he's pretty high-functioning. We had done some testing, and so my husband's a neuropsychologist, and here I am, a professor of special ed, so this poor kid, he comes to us, right? And we had him tested, and we kept getting told, oh, he's just fine, you know too much, just calm down, it'll be fine. And we were like, okay. So when we finally got the official diagnosis when David was 4, I can tell you, and it's interesting, I've talked to a few other mothers who have a son with autism, and the very first thought that went through my mind was, will he be able to serve a mission? That was the first thought. So this is a very personal topic for me, and it's some stuff that I have some expertise on as well. So we're gonna look at what this looks like. The whole premise, I work with the missionary department, and particularly with service missions, and what that looks like. The premise behind calling someone to serve a mission is right here in Doctrine and Covenants, section 4. That if you have a desire to serve, you're called to the work. And so what does that look like? It doesn't say if you have the desire to serve, you're called to go knock on doors, or you're called to go to this region of the world. It just says you're called to the work. And so that work can look very differently for different people. When I was putting this presentation together, I kept thinking of this hymn, I'll go where you want me to go, right? And I think that's kind of the idea as we think about if you have a desire to serve, there's kind of this willingness to say, where is it that you need me? Is there a perfect location? Or, well, there is, but it may be different than maybe we had originally imagined, and maybe that is for the mother, or that's for the individual, or so forth. So we're gonna look at different options that exist, and my hope is that as you learn about these options, you'll be kind of prompted and guided on what's the best fit for you to do the work that you desire to do and to serve. This was dated in from the First Presidency, November 2018, specifically speaking about service missionaries for young missionaries from President Nelson. And you can see here in this, he doesn't say, again, to go knock on doors, to proselyte. He just says, if you desire to serve and to go and serve as a missionary, that's a wonderful, great thing. And so we want to open up those doorways for that to happen for you, for whatever's best for you. The majority of this information that I'll be sharing in this PowerPoint can be found on the Service Missionary website on churchofjesuschrist.org. So, I shared this website with the organizers. Are the PowerPoints going to be made available to the power? Anyway, we can talk later if you would like a copy of this information. So we're going to focus, and when we think about a mission, I guess there's a lot of different missions you could have in life, but we're going to speak specifically about the idea of a proselyting mission and a service mission and what that looks like for you. That cute little missionary in the middle is my nephew. He's serving in North Dakota, and he's really just darling. So we're going to look first at proselyting missions. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I think it's one that we're more familiar with. But I do want to point out some things that I think would be particularly interesting to you. When we're looking at a proselyting mission, the hope is that these supports do you guys know what I mean by proselyting mission? Does anybody not know what I mean by that? You don't know. Okay, who could tell us what you think I mean by proselyting mission? Yeah, you have a companion. Your goal is to go and proselyte, or to go and teach the gospel, right? And we're trying to get in and get investigators, teach them the gospel, get baptisms. That's kind of that traditional one. So it's the one that we've typically seen young adults go and do. Some supports that they would like to see parents and home priesthood leaders, they find that's a key piece. And clearly not every missionary can have that, but the parent one, hopefully the local priesthood leaders. There's a book called Adjusting to Missionary Life that we're going to look at in just a moment that the church has designed. So it's specifically speaking to the idea of mental health issues that come up, stress that comes up when you're trying to be a missionary. Treatment by mental health professionals can still be occurring. Some people will think, well, if I need that, I can't serve a proselyting mission, but you can. And then if you notice that last point, as approved by the mission president, the missionaries can continue to receive counseling even via phone or video conferencing. So if you have a therapist that you particularly are connected with, you can continue to meet with them. But again, it's as approved by the mission president there. So here's some supports that if you feel like I could be successful on a mission with these supports, this could be helpful for you. Things to consider of if a proselyting mission would work or not work for you. What are the severity of the symptoms, of some of the symptoms that you have? Are they things that would interfere with kind of the daily schedule and daily routine? A missionary's schedule is pretty tight, and you've got a companion too that's trying to also get the work accomplished. And I hope when we look at this, we're not seeing one as better than the other, but we're seeing as what's the best fit for you, right? Following a daily schedule and that schedule is often not one that you have total control over. So how comfortable do you feel following a schedule that's somebody else's schedule and that's kind of saying this is where you need to be and when? And then how does what your needs are affect your companion and your ability to be successful as a partnership and as a companionship? And then your time needed to stabilize, maybe if there is an issue or a problem, how much time do you need? I think about my son David. When he was little, he needed an hour and a half to just have a total meltdown and crying and screaming. And when I'm thinking 2-3 years old, now he's 9 years old and he needs about 30 seconds to kind of freak out, and then he can bring it back together, And that's one simple example, or if we're having more of kind of a manic or major episode, how much time do I need before I can stabilize? Whoops. So these are some things, and this is right out of the handbook, and it's out of also letters that have been sent to stake presidents, mission presidents, and things like that. So that's where this information is coming from. So those are things to consider of if a proselyting mission might work for you. I mentioned this Adjusting to Missionary Life Handbook. I just wanted to look at that briefly, just to give you an idea. If you just Googled Adjusting to Missionary Life, LDS, or something like that, you would find this really quickly. But it's a nice book that's been put together to help you understand, you can kind of see here, understanding stress, and it kind of gives you a self-assessment to consider when you're doing that, on how are you doing. And then it also provides you with some sets of tools that have been designed specifically to help you in the situation that you're in. I work with the team that wrote this book, and they are a team of psychiatrists and doctors, other doctors and things, and they really understand and know this concept well. And I feel like this book there's room for improvement as there is with anything, but I think this book has been designed really well to kind of help you. So we won't go through it, but I wanted to make you aware of this resource. And this one has been designed specifically for proselyting missions, so more the traditional missionary. They are writing one specifically for service missionaries. So this could kind of be a good indicator for you when you're trying to decide if a proselyting mission is a good fit. Do you feel like you could manage these symptoms that it talks about in here, these stressful things? Do you feel like you could get yourself back in a pretty quick time frame? Or do you feel like this is something that feels overwhelming? And if it does, then this may not be the best fit for what you want to do to be successful in serving God. This is kind of the idea of where you do a checklist, you look at different things, it gives you different things to consider in your daily life, like your relationship with your companion, you're doing the work, you're studying, and then it says, where are you feeling on that? And so then you can kind of see, yikes, we can get all the way down here. So what does that look like? And then what to do based on that. And then you can also go into, as you go into there later, it gives you things like breathing exercises and some other different strategies to adjust to that. So I wanted to make you aware of that because I think it could be a nice kind of barometer of figuring out, is this working for me? Okay, now, how do I make that go big again? Maybe we'll just leave it, and it'll be just fine. Will it do this, though? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to, because proselyting missions are kind of more traditional and we're fairly aware of them, I'm going to jump more into and spend most of my time on the service mission options. But are there specific questions I can address about proselyting missions before we move on? And we can ask more later, too. We're okay? Okay. I can tell you, this may be the question that maybe you're not thinking to ask, or maybe you don't know if you can ask it. It is not a guarantee. If you have, I've heard some people say, and we get this frequently, oh, well, my son has autism, so he won't go on a proselyting mission. That is not policy. That it's just a blanket, if you have this, then you don't do this kind of thing. So there are individuals with autism that the church is very aware of, and they still get called to serve a more traditional proselyting mission. There are individuals with autism that the church is aware of, and they feel like a service mission would be a better fit. And so they really try to cater this to the individuals. There are individuals with autism that put in their papers, they feel like a service mission would be better, and it goes to the Quorum of the 12, and the Quorum of the 12 still call them to a proselyting mission, and they successfully complete it. So there's a lot of divine intervention here. There's some that feel like they could do a proselyting mission, they do a service mission, and it's the best thing that ever happened for them, and they say that themselves. One of my favorites is a young man with autism. He tried a proselyting mission. It wasn't successful for him, so he came back and completed his mission as a service missionary, and he actually got connected with the FM group, so they're the groups that kind of maintain the buildings in the church buildings. And he learned a trade, electrical trade, and he learned how to fix things in the church buildings that would frequently break in this electrical trade, and he now is an electrician. And it started by this kind of vocational training from his mission. And it was a beautiful thing for him, and he's very grateful that it didn't work out to just complete a proselyting mission. And I see the hand of God in this frequently, and I think we're getting to a better place where it's not like one is better than another, but it's if you have the desire to do the work, you're called, and what will that work look like to the individuals? So we're going to move into service mission and go into a little more detail, because this is a newer thing. You can see here just this letter. It's only as of January 2019 that they would be. If you were called, before you were called to do a service mission, you were assigned by your stake president. Now you're assigned by a Quorum of the 12 apostle, and your letter comes and is issued, the call is issued by the prophet, which is pretty great that we've done that. So here's a little video clip that's going to kind of, as we get into the details of this is going to kind of show it. And actually, I think I'm going, can I pause that so it doesn't start playing? Hopefully it won't. Looks like it's just not even recognizing it. Oh, I think I've got it here. Yes, this is the one I want to show. This will give you, before we get into the details, this just gives a nice overview. So I'm going to show this video.
The Lord needs worthy men and women who are eager to serve on His behalf. Those individuals desiring to serve a mission, but unable to fulfill a teaching mission, play a vital role in bringing souls unto Christ. Young brothers and sisters can find meaningful service to benefit their personal growth, as well as bless the lives of others through the service missions. This journey can provide a wonderful opportunity for development and service, and will be supported by a network of Christian families, friends, and mission coordinators. Those individuals, the service mission candidate, along with the support group, will develop a service mission experience that is customized to
Let me rewind that a little. Sorry. I had a feeling that would happen.
The service mission candidate, along with the support group, will develop a service mission experience that is customized to his or her needs. A tailored mission experience is also extended to worthy missionaries who return home early from their missions. Service missionaries serve in church operations and with charitable organizations. Service missionaries receive their call from the prophet, live at home, and serve locally. The Lord desires that we serve one another. With each unique experience in life comes new opportunities for growth. The service mission program will not only help the missionary candidates better understand themselves, but also open their hearts towards others, as the Savior would. It's normal that there may be fears in accepting a service mission opportunity. The Lord fully understands the talents and limitations of everyone, but He extends the call regardless. The Savior knows that we can overcome any task we encounter with help from our family and friends and through faith in Him. An apostle of the Lord has said, God does not begin by asking our ability, only our availability. And if we prove our dependability, He will increase our capability. Through the Service Mission Program, the Savior is providing all of us the opportunity to develop a pattern of service that will benefit our lives and the lives of others. He wants us to learn to love and serve one another. Therefore, if ye have desires to serve God, ye are called to the work. Simple steps have been created for families, young men, and young women to better understand how to become a service missionary. It all starts by talking to your bishop or branch president, or by visiting the following website.
Okay, so there's our brief overview, and we're going to just take a moment to go into that into a little bit more detail so it's nice and clear with what's happening and kind of what the expectations are. So when we look at a service mission, you can see that it's an individualized, personalized experience. The nice thing, and it's uniquely tailored to their talents. The nice thing is that here, I'm assuming you're all from Utah? Yes? Okay. So the nice thing with Utah is there's a lot of options here. It's a little trickier for some people, but we're still finding great opportunities for them. So some people may partner with like a Goodwill or like a Red Cross or a United Way in their community area, but they're all trying to help support people finding what's best fit for them. In Utah, there's a lot of different opportunities for that because we have both our community outreach programs that could be a nice fit. We also have a lot of like organizations that are run through the church specifically that they could help with. So some examples might be, and we'll show a video here in a minute, you may help in a bishop's storehouse. You may help at the church office building. So we have missionaries that will write in on using public transportation, and they serve there. There's family history stuff that they can do there. There's indexing. We have some missionaries that go and they help, in the vaults where the church keeps a lot of church historical things, and they'll go out to the vaults and like move things because they're young and capable of doing that, and it's harder for the senior missionaries to do. Some missionaries do groundwork at Temple Square, and that's something that's very fulfilling and enjoyable to them to serve. So there's a wide variety. Some missionaries help with tours, so it just kind of depends what the best fit is for you. And I'm really only just really starting to like scrape the surface of options that are out there. The idea would be that you would work with your stake president to kind of identify what those options might be. The parents, the individual that would like to serve, and the stake president, and identify what would be a good option and fit, and then you start to kind of work through. And so I guess I would say, don't be afraid to kind of self-advocate for if you find something that you think could be a good niche and where you'd like to see yourself serving. Let your stake president know, like, hey, this is what I think could be really helpful, and this is what I think would be an appropriate way for me to serve God and to fulfill my mission. You live at home and you serve locally. That is what is put on all the websites. Because you live in Utah, I can let you know that there are some church service missionaries that live in Salt Lake. And so that is an option that you could explore with your stake president if you feel like it's a good fit, and they then serve at the church office building. And you can also serve in multiple assignments. You don't have to just do the one thing. Or if just doing the one thing for your whole mission is what appeals to you, you could just do the one thing, but you could rotate. Like if you were in the bishop's storehouse, there might be different things within the storehouse that you do. And then your ecclesiastical leader would be your stake president while you're serving your service mission. Questions on this part? We're good. Yes?
I know in the normal mission, you have a mission president. Is the stake president?
Yeah, so the stake president would be considered your mission president in some areas, and where we're in Utah, this is happening. Sometimes the stake president will actually call a couple to be, I think they're called service missionary mentors, but they're kind of like the equivalent of a mission president, because if a stake has quite a few that it's beyond the scope of the stake president to meet their needs, then there can be like a couple called to serve as that. Okay, so how would you apply? We'll just go through these. You go through the same application process. If you decide that you want to serve a teaching or proselyting mission or a service mission, you go and you meet with your stake president, and it's the same application. So everyone fills out the same thing. You talk with your bishop and your parents, just like any missionary would do. The bishop would interview you, and then they'll fill out what are some of your unique needs, what are your unique talents and skill set. And then the stake president then guides that application and sends it off. If you have a desire to serve a service mission and you are worthy to do that, you still fill out the same online recommendation that any other missionary would fill out. So actually, I'm going to go to this one first and go back to that one. So who can do that? It's the worthy young men and young women who are either for whatever reason a proselyting mission is not the right fit or a teaching mission is not the right fit for them. And then also proselyting missionaries that for whatever reasons have returned home early due to some medical needs and things, they sometimes can complete their mission as a service missionary. Let me go back to this one. The video kind of hit on these things, but you can see it's both to provide you an opportunity to serve, to develop a pattern of lifelong service throughout your life as a mission should do, and then also to provide needed service to communities and organizations that need that. We have so many organizations that say they don't know what they would do without their service missionaries. It's such a key part of what they're doing. I think that first bullet point is interesting. You don't choose if you want to serve a service mission. You fill out the application, you identify your needs and so forth, and the stake president doesn't determine that. They just send on the recommendations and things, but the actual call will come from the Quorum of the 12. It also, any ones that do have medical needs or mental health needs going on there, they are flagged and they are reviewed by a medical committee. Like it is the one that I just spoke to you earlier about with psychiatrists. I mean, some very, there are some really incredible men and women on that committee, and then they will make recommendations, but the ultimate call still comes from the Quorum of the 12. It looks like I got a little ahead of myself. So what are some options that you could serve? So you can see here some community organizations, food banks, refugee services, shelters, and then like church operations such as the Bishop's Storehouse, the Cannery, Deseret Industries, seminaries and institutes. We have service missionaries that are serving to help support those programs going on. And when you've been called to serve as a service missionary, then you begin to work with these organizations to figure out what you're going to do. How long is the commitment? So you can see here. So to be considered in this bracket of a younger church service mission, sisters are considered there between the ages of 19 to 25. And your commitment, they would like you to have, and then elders are ages 18 to 25. So elders can go a little bit earlier. They want you to be able to commit to at least 6 months of serving, and sisters up to 18 months and elders up to 24 months. So that's another thing that I think can be helpful for some people, is some people committing to 2 years may be a little overwhelming, or we're not sure if we're ready for that. And so you can commit for a shorter time. You can also extend too. If it's going well and you're feeling good about it, then you can choose to extend. So if the anxiety of making that 2-year commitment is a little too much, you can reduce that. Did you have a question? No. Okay. Does anybody have a question? We're good? What's that? How's my day? That's good. Actually, I'm really enjoying my day. Thanks for asking. Okay, where will you live? So typically service missionaries live at home, and then they serve locally. And you can see that. So also sometimes service missionaries, like maybe you have an aunt and uncle and you know of like a really great opportunity somewhere in Ohio, I don't know, wherever it may be. There can be permission given for you to go and live with other, or your grandparents or something like that, if you feel like that would be a good experience to maybe live away from your community area to go and serve your mission. So there can be permission for that. But they do request that missionaries, if you are doing your service mission, you should not be living alone during that time frame. That's just the policies that they've determined. We've talked about this. How are you called? You're called by the prophet of God, and he sends you your call, and he issues it to you, and then you begin to tailor that to meet your specific needs. Oh, now I'm going to see. Oh, now this one's going to probably want to start playing. Okay, here's an example of a young service missionary and his experience of doing his service mission.
Hi, I'm Joseph Wendell Olson. I'm on my mission and I live here in Marietta. This is just what I'd like to call my castle. And I hope I get another one so I can make this bigger and bigger and bigger until it's just right.
Joseph was diagnosed autistic at age 3.
One of the first things that struck me was that my son was never going to make a touchdown.
Joseph never really got picked for any teams because he was never on a team. He never went to birthday parties. But that's hard as a mom, you know. We were really struggling with how he was going to go on a mission, but I knew that he would go on a mission.
There was a lot of prayer, there was a lot of fasting.
Right around the time that he was 19, he started to pray, and he prayed for a year.
We unanimously felt that a service mission was the best course for Joseph.
We didn't know what to expect, and so we've kind of grown up together.
This Bishop Storehouse has filled a great need here in this valley.
I'm mostly doing the heavy lifting there and stocking the shelves or stocking the cooler or the freezer.
You should see him. He has a special coat that he puts on, you know, with mittens and a hat. He goes into the freezer.
Oh, the freezer box.
The patrons are getting hot chocolate and fruit drink and pancakes, syrup, the peanut butter, butter, oh, and of course the milk.
He just sometimes off the wall, just does fun things and it makes us all laugh.
Turn drinks all around.
When Elder Olson first started his mission, he was very reserved and very shy. And he didn't want anybody to touch him. He didn't even want to stand close to anybody. And then one day his mom came to pick him up. And all of a sudden he gave Sister Fox and I a hug. His mother was watching and I saw tears in her eyes and she said, "He's never given me a hug."
And we get grandma hugs when he leaves. He has made this a happy place where we all want to be. He's like a son to us.
Joseph is helping change lives. He's proud of that badge that he wears. He's turned into a man of God.
It's been a joy for us to see him blossom.
Just send us more Elder Olsons.
I'm definitely glad that I went on this mission, because now I'm able to serve my Heavenly Father. That's all I've ever wanted to do.
Okay, kind of a nice video teaching about this. What were some things that stood out to you in that video?
His growth.
His growth through his mission. The humor. Well, and I feel like his humor was really welcomed there, right? Like it was kind of like this was needed. Yeah, when he opened the freezer. That was great, right?
Open the pod bay doors. I'm afraid I cannot do that.
Is that Star Wars? No, what is it?
HAL 3000. I've heard of the reference.
Wait, what's the movie?
HAL 3000.
Oh, I'm not cool enough to know.
The character is called HAL 3000.
Oh, there you go. What's the movie called?
2001: Space Odyssey.
Ah, I knew someone would know. What else stood out? Any thoughts that you had as you watched that?
How happy he was.
Yeah, I mean, there's something really beautiful about the fact that I love that he said, I'm glad I did this because I always had a desire to serve God. And it didn't have to be sometimes what our minds define of what that has to look like. It was, you know, there he is pushing a broom, but he's able to serve God and he's able to bring humor and bring joy into so many people's lives. And in the same way, growing himself, right? Becoming this person that he wants to become. And I think that is what we need to focus on with these missions. This quote from President Nelson, I think, does a nice job with that. I love that he says, through a lifetime of service in this church, which I think no one would argue that President Nelson has given a lifetime of service, I have learned that it doesn't really matter where one serves. What the Lord cares about is how one serves. And I think that video was a great example of that. He had joy. He connected with people. He was giving it his all. And that is what a mission should look like for all of us. And I really am grateful that the church is figuring out how to make that work for every individual, and that it isn't just kind of a one size fits all. This is a standard way. If you have to be able to serve this way, and if you can't, there's no other option for you. But that there's many different options out there. I believe that is the end of my presentation. So I just was going to leave some time at the end for things I can clarify for you. Yes.
You may have already addressed this, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
But do young adults with autism have different, I mean, are most of them directed into the service mission program, or do they have to serve in proselyting roles?
They do. Okay, so that's a better way I could answer it. That's an easier way I could answer it. Yes, they can be called to a proselyting mission. Do most of them get called to a service mission? Maybe. I don't know the exact stats on that, but it's not just you should. I would say I've seen enough experiences where people have tried to not mention it on their mission call, on their mission application, and I don't think that's helpful.
Like that from one of my seminary teachers who mentioned somebody who did not mention that he was good at sign language, and he got assigned to a sign language speaking mission.
Oh. So God figures it out.
Wait, what? He knows.
So his friend didn't put that he knew sign language, but then he still got called to a sign language mission. So I guess God figured it out, is what I think is what the point was there. But I will say sometimes people don't want to say, they don't want to be completely open with the issues that they're dealing with, and I think that's not helpful. I mean, we want to be honest in our daily dealings, period, and I think a mission application is certainly an important time to do that. And I think we're getting much better at seeing that the right calls are happening when we do that. But no, somebody with autism can be called to a proselyting mission. And there's an entire medical committee that reviews and they focus on their abilities and capacity, not the label. So it's pretty well done. Yes?
Since the missionaries that are doing service missions are living at home, do they still have to pay, like the families of proselyting missionaries usually, pay out a certain amount each month for their
That's
missions,
a good question.
Is that the same thing for
Do you know?
service missions?
Yeah, I did a church service mission, and it's not the same. You just kind of pay for it yourself as you go without paying to anyone.
Okay.
So you don't really have to ever pay like a lump
like a certain
thing.
amount each month.
Unless that's changed, yeah. It was just you support your own lifestyle. Yeah.
So you pay for yourself, but not like.
But you don't turn in a payment payment.
To like your bishop or something.
Yeah, that was my question, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
since you're actually living at home, you don't have to do that.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yes.
So, when you go on a mission, is it recommended to have a job or not to have a job on it, or save up money before?
That's a great question. I think you would want to save up money before. They do want you to commit that it is your mission that you're doing. The minimum requirement weekly is 8 hours a week, but the idea of you doing only 8 hours a week is that that's kind of your capacity, the maximum capacity you could give. So if you could be giving your energy and time to another job, they would request that you be able to devote that time to serving on your mission during that time frame. So it would probably be best to earn money ahead of time so that you could devote that time to being a full-time missionary. But some people, 8 hours a week is kind of the fullest they could give, and they would kind of just need to decompress and stuff after that. Others are giving, 40 plus hours a week in serving. Yes.
I just had a thought on that. I served in the nursery in my ward, but the gal that serves with me serves a service mission only in the summers at like Hebrew camp.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think in different situations may be different. She's only a missionary in the summer, technically. So I think maybe she would be open to doing other things the rest of the year.
Sure, and the minimum requirement that they're asking is 6 months, and so that's another option you could look at is like do 6 months and then maybe potentially extend, or say, okay, done 6 months, now I need to go and earn more money or do something else. And so they really want to make it be that it's not too overwhelming, it doesn't create too much anxiety, but it can be successful for where you're at. Yes.
So for service missions, you never live alone, but you could potentially have a place in Salt Lake that you are with other missionaries, or you can live at your house, or your parents, or family members.
Yes.
Okay.
All of the above. Did you have a question?
Just curious. Do you know what the kind of the line is for functionality?
This slide, the simple answer is no. I don't know where the line is. And I think they've deliberately not put a specific line there. But I think the idea is, can you follow a schedule? And can you follow a schedule that's not your own successfully? Can you work well with a companion? So it's not going to distract from the work. Now, any two sets of missionary companions, there's going to be times that it's not, so it's not like it has to be perfect, but 90+% of the time, is this going to be an easy relationship to work together and not making it more draining on a companion? And then also I think, like, what supports do you need? Like, if you're needing an hour of counseling every day, that's going to really pull away from you and your companion's ability to go out and proselyte. And so kind of what are the needs that you have to be successful in life, and is that going to be too much of a distraction from the work? And if it is, then a service mission is probably going to be more successful for you. But these questions can really, I would really advise you to talk with your parents, with your bishop, with your stake president, and really kind of think about, what does this look like? Another option too that I probably should have put in this presentation is there's a 2 transfer mission. I don't know if any of you have heard of that. And so sometimes you can be called to a proselyting mission or teaching mission, and you do 2 transfers, so 12 weeks, and you see how it's going. And at the end of 12 weeks, you sit down with your mission president and your stake president. That must be like a video conference thing, I guess. And you reevaluate how things are going, and then you can extend, or you can be honorably released. Like, you gave all you could give, and thank you for serving. And you could be honorably released and you're done, or you could choose to be honorably released from a proselyting mission and then finish out more time as a service missionary. So there's that option as well that I probably should have spoken to. Yes?
How do companionships work in service missions?
So you don't have a companion unless, sometimes do they have companions like in the family history?
Not that I've seen.
So they're not assigned. So you don't have a companion. What you would have is some type of supervisor, And so sometimes if it's like at a church setting, then it would probably be like a senior couple that's been called to kind of oversee the service missionaries there. If it's more like outside in like more of a community event, then it could be just a manager of that store or that community center. They may not even be LDS. So it's more of a manager. And then you would also have the contact of either your stake president or who's been called in your stake to oversee and support service missionaries. I think it's called Service Missionary Mentor. Does that sound right? I don't know. Logan works at the church headquarters as well, so that's why I keep like picking on him. Did you have a question?
No, I was just going to say, I think it's a cool thing about service missionaries is that they figure it out for you.
Yeah.
So if you want a companion, someone can be called as a companion to help or go to the temple or whatever with you. If you want to just live at home and do it your own way, you can do it your own way.
Yeah. They do ask you, and if you go online at this site, they do ask you to commit to a missionary lifestyle. So no dating. I don't know why that's the only thing that's coming to my mind right now that missionaries do. But like clean cut, keeping a curfew, going to bed by a certain time, waking up at a certain time, taking care of yourself health-wise, exercising, things that, what's that?
Clean living space.
Keep your area clean. And so like kind of the demands of a typical of any missionary, they ask, there's like a handbook, a missionary handbook that goes along with this, and they ask that you comply with the standards of being a missionary while you're called. Did you have a question or comment?
No, I was going to say, like, listening to appropriate media.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Things that bring in the spirit and not listening to things that don't.
Yes. Thank you.
Proselyting missions, I think, these days have weight and height, or weight requirements and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
A certain level of fitness, to do the walking and things. Does any of that apply to service missions?
I've not heard of that, so I don't think so.
Parents have done a service mission and they're both extremely overweight, and they just want something that fits what they can do. They had more of a sit-down one and minimal walking, and yeah, same thing. They just find some. Your ability level in that area as well.
Did you ever?
I've heard things have changed, so I don't know, but I have a cousin who had Down syndrome, and he was in a wheelchair, and he had a feeding tube, and he had a trach and an oxygen thing, and he was able to serve a service mission.
Great.
He did. I think his mother was called as his companion. His mother had to go with him because he had more needs. But even someone with him with really no mobility his own without his chair was able to serve a mission.
Yeah, great. There's even things like with online indexing and stuff that some people are called to serve from their home even. And online indexing is just one example of that, but some people are even called and they serve from their home, and they give 8 hours a week, a few hours a day. There's a sister that I was talking with that's doing a service mission, and she has real severe anxiety, and so she comes to the church office building I think it's like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. It's like 2 or 3 times a week. And she just comes for a few hours at a time because beyond that is just really overwhelming to her. And so again, just another example of where it was catered to fit for her to be successful, but for her to serve a mission and do that.
To that point, the companion question, I guess, threw me because I was thinking someone paired with a peer. But I've definitely heard or have seen parents called with their child, and all 3 of them will serve the mission together. Yeah, I've heard that.
I've heard that too. Like sometimes mission presidents are called, and they have a child with special needs, and so then their child is called to serve as a missionary, and they do a service mission with their parents, as their parents are mission presidents or whatever, or senior missionaries. Same idea, right? So yeah, there's lots. I mean, if you want to do the work, they'll find a spot for you, I think is the point there. Other questions? Yes.
So with proselyting missions, it's really, really like scheduled out. Like you wake up at this time, and then this is when you eat. And
Yeah.
by this time, and all this sort of stuff. Like it's really scheduled throughout the entire week.
It's kind of because the middle section you have to make appointments,
Mm.
right, with people, or you're, at this time we're going to be traveling to this area, and then we're going to be talking with members, or it's scheduled, but
There's some flexibility.
there's a lot of flexibility in it, and you have to be in charge of your scheduling, right, with your companion.
So basically, the two ends of the
Right.
days are
Yes.
set in stone, but everything else too. Okay.
Yeah.
So with service mission, I guess I'm just wondering, like, if you I guess I'm just confused about what I would do if I'm not actually currently doing out doing the servicing, what I'd be doing.
That's a great question.
In my space, because like they read the scriptures and they figure
Yeah.
out points so that they can teach lessons.
Sure. So that is a great question. So there's a service missionary handbook, and that actually has like where you can fill in your schedule for the week, and you approve it through your service missionary mentor or stake president. And so you would define, this is what I see a typical week looking like for me. And there's some flexibility as things come up and whatnot. But you'd say, I plan to wake up by this time, I plan to exercise at this time, this is when I plan, and they still requesting, you're a missionary, and so they still request that you do personal scripture study and gospel study. And then this is the time frame that I will be at the Bishop's Storehouse from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Wherever it is you might be, the church office building or wherever it is that you might be. This is the time frame I'll be there. I'll be there Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at this time. And then on Tuesday will be my P day. P day is preparation day, kind of your time to do stuff. This is the day that I'll take for my P day. And then on Thursdays, I'm not going to go to the church office building, but I'm going to go to the temple on Thursdays, And so they do request that, and your mentor would work with you to set what your schedule should look like so that you are living that missionary lifestyle. And if there needs to be more downtime there, you would work with your mentor or stake president to determine that. But yeah, that's a great question. And the handbook goes through that, and it talks more specifically too about kind of some of the policies and entertainment and things that you should and shouldn't be doing, times that you wear your missionary badge, times that you don't wear your missionary badge. So it's pretty defined, but there is flexibility there too.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
The 2 transfer missions, I've heard of those in Salt Lake. Do they have them throughout the country, or is that?
The service and the proselyting mission, is that what you mean?
The 2 transfer.
Oh, the 2 transfer missions. You can be called, I don't know where all you could be called, but it's not just in Salt Lake. But my guess is it's stateside. Do you know? Yeah, I don't know. My guess is that it's stateside, but I can't confirm that. So, yeah, but it's not just Utah. There's a missionary who, I guess just to kind of show the individual tailoring of this, there was a missionary who had cancer, and when he was younger, and he's in remission, but he still has to receive treatment on a weekly basis. And so he was called to serve a proselyting mission, but in his hometown. So because of getting the right doctor and the right treatment and where they're showing high success rates with this particular cancer that he survived of, they felt like the most appropriate thing would be for him. And the medical advisory group actually said he should do a service mission. And the apostles said, well, can't we make this work? And they said, well, he'd have to live in his hometown, and he would just be called to serve in his hometown. And they're like, great. And then even within his mission boundaries, there's only certain areas that he gets transferred to, so he's always within like 30 minutes of where his doctor's appointments are. And he goes weekly and has to get this treatment for about an hour, and he's still serving a proselyting mission. So I just keep hearing really great examples of how this is working, and I think it works well when everyone at the table is willing to collaborate and say, I'm willing to serve. What does that need to look like? This sweet young man that survived cancer, he was willing to go serve in his hometown. I got my call to Provo, Utah. It's actually in Texas where he lives. But I think that's so great, the humility there, and that he just has a desire to serve, and what is that going to look like? So, any other questions? I think we're getting done a little early, but I think that's okay. I can show you a really beautiful video for those of you that would like to see it. We just released this video. What happened?
I think you left it too long.
Oh, I left it. So what do?
Try to turn it off back on again.
That's such a... I did. Oh, Kelly.
Okay, let me do my best.
So we just made this new video that, yay, that is talking about inclusion and faith and disabilities and how we really access a higher quality of life through our faith. And so I'm gonna cheat. That's not the website I should have typed in. It should be disability.churchofjesuschrist.org. Oh, and look, it doesn't want me to go there. So it's gonna call me out. What's that? Am I typing this right? Okay, so I should have just done the right thing to begin with. So we made this video and we've kind of done a soft release of it. It's on our website. And we're gonna start a campaign to show it more widely in just a little bit, but we'll show it to you. It's kind of beautiful. And it talks about autism at one point too.
For people with disabilities, most doors serve two purposes.
They let people in and they keep people out.
So the question we have,
They said they do want to share your presentation, but they aren't sure where the link is. They're not remembering or seeing where they saw it. If you don't mind sharing it again at this email address.
Oh yeah, you bet.
So you can announce that it will be shared.
When people hear it, they don't believe it.
The 1 in 3 households has a person with a disability.
at church you'll hear people say, but we don't have anyone with a disability in our congregation. Because if we did, we'd know who they were.
Because if we did, we'd build a ramp for them. Except right now, I don't need a ramp. I just need the teacher to use a microphone.
Right now, I just need a friend.
Someone to pray with. Someone to tell stories to. Someone to bond with over our faith.
But how can you bond when you're invisible, hiding in plain sight? Those without sight, the hard of hearing.
Those with depression, autism, anxiety. Those that have a hard time fitting in.
Those with fragile bodies who try hard but struggle. I just need you to believe. Believe in me. To believe this place would be better with me by your side.
Have you ever really thought about the things that make you belong? Truly belong in a community? It's hard to describe exactly what they are, but you definitely know when you don't fit in.
People talk all the time about special needs, but these are not special needs. They're everybody's needs.
We just want to be invited, noticed, loved.
And that manifestation of love doesn't have to be anything big. Sometimes the simplest things are the most meaningful.
After all, faith isn't about programs. It is about relationships.
And reaching out doesn't require the extraordinary, just a regular outpouring of the ordinary.
We can share. We can serve.
We can contribute. We can help.
We're believers, just like you. And just like you, we can listen. We can comfort. We can offer all of our support.
For people with disabilities, most doors serve two purposes. But the doors here should only have one.
That's our new video. We really like it. Well, thank you for letting me come. This presentation that I shared today will be somewhere to access.
Yes, it should be
Okay, so I will make sure and share that with the appropriate people, so if you'd like to get any of those quotes or links or things, you will have access to them. And any other questions? I can stay after too if you kind of have more individualized questions that I'd be happy to answer. And thanks for coming, and I'm excited for you guys to figure out what you think is going to be best for you as you have a desire to serve. Thanks.